Good day, everybody, and welcome to my latest episode on my YouTube video series. And today I'm going to talk about the future of real estate investment. Now, this video is my 2 cents on this topic. How will property investment fare in the next 20 years? As some of you guys may know, I have been a property investor for a very long time now, I think over 15 years. So this is based on my experiences and based on what I see on the ground and how I see the trends will be. I could be totally wrong, okay? But if you are interested to know my opinion, this is my opinion. If I were to bet how property investment will be moving forward, this is how I will predict. Now, first thing first is to understand the real estate cycle. Now, most of you understand that real estate has a cycle, right? Property prices will go up and then they will come down and they move up like in a circle, not a circle, in a wave format, something like this, right? And typically, each cycle that we know, right, prices will go higher and higher, right, from the previous cycle. So that's why property prices today, right, are generally higher than property prices that were 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, right? Because even though they go up and down, they will still go up and down in a trend moving up. Okay, so why does cycles happen? Now, number one is basically supply and demand. So if there's a demand for properties, right, for the house, so the house is a supply, so there's a price being set, right? So if demand increases because population go up, right, and the supply is stagnant, so property price will go up, right? So when property price go up, right, the government will sell more land or release more land. There'll be more land transactions. Property developer will be willing to commit capital to build, right? And because when that happens, they will create supply, right? And when this supply finally appear in the market, right, the prices will then come down because more supply, more choice. So prices will not go up as much. So this is why there is a cycle. Now, the problem with supply and demand is that both things take years to create. Now, when you build a house, the house need minimum a few years to build, right? Whether in Singapore or Malaysia, a condo typically takes 3, 4, 5, maybe up to 7 years to build, right? And similarly with demand, right? If there's too many houses, the government cannot magically create people out of nowhere to stay in these houses, right? So people also want to come to a place to stay, also take time, right? You cannot magically born baby, the baby immediately grow up and stay in the house, right? So even demand creation takes time. So all this takes years, and because of that, prices can move in a certain direction for a very long time before new supply or new demand come in. So as a result, right, you have this cycle effect. And the problem with the cycle effect is that governments and planning authorities typically have a difficult time trying to manage it. It's more difficult than it looks because it takes many years to see the results of what you are doing, right? So you're not sure whether what you're doing is right or wrong, okay, or it may take many years, right? So many countries don't do it well enough. I think Singapore is one of the few places where they do it very well, right, as well as it could be, right? So but in many places it's not something easy to manage, right? So that's why cycles can be very harsh one way or the other. That means go very long for a very long time in the wrong direction that you don't want. So the question is, going back to the chart as I showed earlier, right? In cycle go up and down, up and down. In today's stage, right, in 2024, do you think that property prices will still go up, right? Or will they go down? Now, there are many people who believe in either way. Some of you believe that it will continue to push up. Some of you believe that property prices will finally come down for whatever reason. So, what is my belief? I believe that the correct answer is actually both. Okay, both, right? You end up with a K-shaped result, right? So one or V shape, right? Like V, like the this kind of V, right? So property prices in tier one cities. Now, like tier one city will be like Singapore, like Shanghai, like London, right, like New York. Prices in these cities will still go up, right? Whereas prices in tier two cities or smaller cities, tier three, tier four, prices will go down. At best, they will be flat, right? Flat in terms of with the inflation rate, right? Because they cannot really push up by a lot. Now, the reason for this is because tier one cities continue to attract population growth. So tier one cities are able to attract talent, right? Because talent goes to these cities because they have better paying jobs, there are more opportunities for career, right? There's more opportunities for business, there's bigger markets there, there's more entertainment, better lifestyle, right? So people tend to go to the tier one cities for this reason, and the best people will be able to go, the talents will go first, right? And talents go, they will create money, and when there's more money, other talents in support services or businesses will come as well. So that creates a cycle where tier one cities can grow disproportionately fast, whereas tier 2, tier 3 cities, they will suffer because the people from these smaller cities will go to the bigger cities, and that's very common, right? Today Singapore has 5.6 million people, right? If Singapore easily want to hit 6 million, I think government open the tap, right? Ask people to come, right? I'm sure you guys understand lots of people want to come to Singapore if given the opportunity, right? Paid well, they will come. So it's not that Singapore government cannot hit 6 million if they want to, but of course there must be a control, like you cannot letting everybody come at once. So but my point is, talent always want to go to the big cities, right? The best cities there is, and this will come at the expense of the tier 2, tier 3 cities who will suffer. So goes back to the original question in this video, right? So what is the future of property investment? Does it mean that can I still buy property for investment? Should I only buy in tier 1 city? Can I make big money if I buy in tier 1 city? Now the answer to the question is, can I make big money? The short answer is no. You can still make money, but you cannot make big money, or even if you do, you cannot make it consistently. That means it's very difficult to become a full-time property investor to make big money all the time, right? As a property investor, moving forward, right? You can make some money, yes, decent amount of money, yes, but will you make like big money, millions, making multi-millionaire? No, at most you make a couple 100,000. Like in Singapore's case, right? Typically, what happens is you are based on asset progression, you BTO, you try to make one round. If you BTO well, then you buy private property, you can make another round, right? So you can make maybe 2-3 rounds in Singapore, best case scenario, right? But so that would net you a few 100,000 Singapore dollars, right? I guess after the 10-20 year period. But is that a lot of money? Yes. Does it make you a multi-millionaire? No, right? So you still have to work. In, I guess in most cases, you cannot say don't do your job or quit your job, right? You still need to work, right? But you can make a nice nest egg for yourself. So in that sense, yes, it's still very worth it to buy property for investment. That comes up to another topic about the bar for what is a successful property investment. I felt that the bar has become lower and lower. In the old days, right, when I started buying property in 2007, right, that time you can find 5-6% property yield easily, right? Anywhere also got 5-6% yield, right? And today, the average yield in Singapore is maybe 3%, right? In Malaysia, it's probably 4, right? So the yield has dropped, right? In those days, we were hunting for like 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Percent. But now it's very difficult, right? Almost impossible to get it in residential property. Maybe you can get it in commercial property if you buy very well, right? But for residential property, generally speaking, it has become very, very difficult, right? And those days, right, you can buy multiple property. There's no ABSD, there is no SSD. In Malaysia, you can buy property where the interest during construction is borne by the developer, right? You can have low down payment, you can have 90% loan, 100% loan, and this is for multiple properties. Okay, so it's a lot easier than there were not so many rules, right? I'm sure if you guys know, you probably know some guy in your 50s or 60s, maybe your parents, right, who bought multiple properties when they were younger, right? And now they cannot do that today. You might have heard of some rich China person or Indonesian bought multiple properties in Singapore 10-20 years ago, but they cannot do that today, right? So my point is, it's a lot easier to make money then, right? Compared to now, the rules have changed, right? So today, right, if you can make 100,000 in 3 years, you or 200,000 in 3 years, you're very happy, right? But now those days, we can use 20,000 to make 100,000. You know, the return on capital was so much better, right? So what I mean is that what you consider a successful investment today, right, the bar has dropped, right, because it's much more difficult now. So Ryan, are you saying don't buy property then? Should you go and buy something else? Buy gold, buy bonds, buy shares, right? Put your money in US treasuries, right? What are you saying, right? So I'm saying no. I'm saying you can still buy property, right? Property. One thing, the good thing about property is that I think property investment actually ultimately is a lot of common sense, right? A lot of common sense, a bit of technical understanding, but not too much, right? I think a lot of other investment types are a lot more technical and complicated. This one, any auntie uncle also can get into it and buy, and it's relatively safe, right? And you can make money in a fairly steady manner, controlled manner with minimal risk, right? If you know what you're doing, right? So property is good in that sense, and property also has one more important thing which I mentioned is emotional value, right? Because people buy a house because they need a house to stay. Like in Singapore's case or in Malaysia's case, right? A lot of your property investment is also the home that you stay. So there's emotional value in real estate, right? It's still better to own property than to rent, right? Emotionally, right? For your family, for yourself, right? So property has that value as well. And property, thirdly, also is a very good store of wealth, right? Property price rarely ever drop 90%, drop 100%. If you buy something today, right, in many cases it will go up over time. Worst case, it will be flat or follow inflation, right? Rarely your property price will like drop a lot until it becomes zero, right? That's impossible. Because the house is still there, the house will not disappear, right? So that's the good thing about real estate. So comes into my final question. So Ryan, you didn't talk about JB, Johor Bahru. So is Johor Bahru a tier 1 city, or is it going to be a tier 2, tier 3 city where price will also drop? Now, as I mentioned before in many videos, I consider Johor Bahru as an extension of Singapore, right? If Singapore has 28 district, right? Singapore got 28 district, right? Johor Bahru is at district 29, right? Informally, right? The JB and Singapore economy is so intertwined, right? Nowadays, you go around JB, you see so many Singaporeans. You go to Singapore, you see so many people from Malaysia, right? There's so much intertwined, and online when I see a lot of comments, right, saying, oh, JB no good, Singapore no good, right? Or they criticize each other. I find it's a very stupid kind of way to talk about it, because of course in every city, in every country, there'll be good people and bad people, good experiences and bad experiences, and we are besides the point about criticizing each other. There's good and bad. As an individual, it's up to you to make the best of it, right? So Johor Bahru is an extension of Singapore, right? Economically, right? And it will, if Singapore price go up, JB price can only go up. If you believe Singapore will do well, right? And I believe Singapore will do well, then JB will definitely do well as well. Because we are just a trend follower to the Singapore economy, right? And Singapore and JB can resolve so many problems that Singapore face today. High cost of living, you go to JB, lower cost of living. Singapore environment too sterile because everything was the same. You come to JB, there's so much change in living environment for you and your family, or as a retiree, so many other things to do, right? For businesses, you can come here to lower cost of business to expand your business, to find new people to hire, to do different types of businesses that you can even do in Singapore, right? So there's so many things that JB can resolve for Singapore, right? And there's a lot of win-win situation here. So I believe in higher JB Singapore cooperation moving forward, right? And I believe this is the future, that Singapore will be a very successful city, and JB will follow being a part of Singapore economically very much. So I think it's a very good move to buy JB property, because JB represents the last, right, last major way to play on the Singapore story, right, on the Singapore property investment story without coming out so much money like required to in Singapore. So thank you very much. That was my 2 cents, right? I hope I'm correct. I could be wrong. If you have any comments, you want to contradict me, want to argue with me, want to criticize me, want to support me, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment sections below. More than happy to chat with you on this topic. And if you like our content, do like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We try to create as many content as possible with regards to property investment in Johor Bahru, retirement topics in Johor Bahru as well, and more Singapore Johor collaboration. That is a win-win for everyone, and it's the way forward. Thank you very much, and bye bye.